Since the rise of the mass printing in the Arab world, Islamic libraries have overflowed with countless books on theology, morals, and etc. Shelves sag under the weight of the centuries of scholarship, commentaries, and legal manuals that you know the story of. Some of these works are so obscure, horrendous, that it honestly sometimes feels like they were written in hopes that no one would ever open them. And yet, here they are, preserved through time, opinions of Muslim theologians. You might think that no religious scholar could ever justify an act as vile as sex with the dead people. You would be wrong. These exist. They're a part of the Islamic history. With everything going on around Islam, and with every video David Wood or Apostate Prophet makes, you might have thought that we reached the bottom. But nah, we're yet to see the full extent of what a Sharia-based society is capable of. The controversy did not start in the ancient past. It began only 13 years ago. In Morocco, Sheikh Abdelbari Zamzami, a well-known religious figure and a former paramilitarian, issued a fatwa that shocked the Islamic world. His ruling stated that a man may have sexual intercourse with his deceased wife as a farewell act, since, in his reasoning, no legal text implicitly forbade it. His statement spread rapidly across Arabic media, causing outrage and disgust. Clerics scrambled to condemn him. Journalists debated whether such a thing could even be real. Yet when questioned, Zamzami doubled down. According to his understanding of Sharia, there was no sin in the act because the bond continued after death. Years later, in 2017, the controversy resurfaced in Egypt. Sheikh Sabri Abdarouf, a lecturer at Al-Azhar University, the most prestigious institution in Sunni Islam, echoed the same position. He explained that if a husband had intercourse with his dead wife, it would not be considered adultery because marriage was still legally valid until burial. The reaction was explosive, to say the least. Egypt's media erupted, and Al-Azhar itself was forced into emergency damage control. Abdarouf was investigated and briefly suspended. Yet, just like Zamzami before him, he faced no formal punishment, because in the technical language of Sharia, he said nothing anti-Islamic, quote unquote. This is the crucial point. Both men were not inventing perversions. They were drawing from classical sources within the canon of Islamic law. To understand how such rulings became possible, we have to look back to the legal traditions that inspired them. In the Shafi'i school, one of the four main Sunni madhabs, scholars recorded opinions on nearly every conceivable act, including intercourse with the dead. The Shafi'i jurist Shams al-Din al-Ramli wrote in his book that if someone had intercourse with a corpse, the body did not need to be washed again for ritual purity. The reasoning, death itself removes all forms of impurity. He further noted that no punishment, or dowry, was required for such an act. Another scholar, Al-Khatib al-Sharbini, the author of Tufat al-Habib, reinforced this view. In his section on legal punishments, he listed intercourse with the dead body or with an animal as acts that do not warrant corporal punishment. The implication was clear. Though morally reprehensible, they were not crimes under Sharia law. The Hanbali tradition offers a similar perspective. The jurist Mustafa al-Ruhaibani, in his book Yahad al-Muntaha, outlined conditions for such acts. He wrote that if the deceased woman was not the man's wife, a dowry was due to her family. But if she was his wife, the act incurred no punishment, no payment, only a ritual washing of the corpse afterward. In another commentary, it was added that while the act was forbidden, it carried no legal penalty. The jurist explained that Sharia only punishes acts that involve violation of another's rights, and since a corpse has no legal rights, the offense was categorized as distasteful, not criminal. In modern legal terms, this is basically like saying, oh, it's disgusting, but technically not illegal. It's still morally wrong, but you can technically do it. Such logic reveals a disturbing pattern in the development of the Islamic law, a system that is so focused on legal definitions that morality itself doesn't become negotiable or personal, to say the least. Now let's turn to the hadith that some claim inspired these rulings. As recorded in Mujam al-Aswad by al-Tabarani, transmitted from Ibn Abbas, the narration states, when Fatima, the mother of Ali, died, the Messenger of Allah removed his shirt, clothed her in it, and lay down beside her in the grave. After the burial, his companions asked him why he did this. The Prophet reportedly replied, I gave her my shirt so she would wear the garments of paradise, and I lay beside her to ease the pressure of the grave, for she was among the most beloved to me after Abu Talib. The controversy stems from the Arabic verb itajaya, which means to lie with. In many contexts, it also implies sexual intimacy. The ambiguity has led some interpreters to read the hadith as evidence of inappropriate behavior. However, Islamic scholars today generally classify this narration as weak hadith, something they always say, not fully authentic. Some even warn believers not to repeat it, except to refute it. Yet the mere existence of such a report, written, preserved, and debated by jurists, says enough about the boundaries of the Islamic thought. What does all this reveal? It shows that within Islam, the line between legality and morality can vanish completely. And when religious law becomes a machine that regulates every human act, no matter how depraved, the system starts to devour itself. Islamic scholars often defend these texts by saying these are rare opinions, not mainstream. But rarity does not erase authorship. Someone wrote these words, someone believed them, someone cited them centuries later to justify new fatwas. The defenders of these rulings argued that the scholars were simply applying logic within the framework of Sharia, but that is precisely the problem. A framework that allows logic to justify the indefensible is a broken one. When the law becomes detached from morals, it no longer protects human dignity. It only defines how to violate it without punishment. And some modern historians suggest that Muhammad himself exhibited symptoms of temporal lobe epilepsy, which could explain his trances, seizures, and erratic behavior. Whether true or not, the point remains. A system built on the revelations of one unstable mind will eventually reproduce instability on its moral code. The scholars who came after him inherited that instability. They turned every impulse, every desire into a legal question. They dissected ethics until nothing was sacred. This discussion is not about the faith itself. It's about exposing how blind obedience to Sharia authority corrodes reason. When religious scholars believe that their job is to justify rather than to question, morality becomes irrelevant. Every perversion finds a loophole. Every cruelty finds a verse. The story of necrophilia in Islam is one about the power of clerics who claim the right to define what is pure and what is not, what's sin and what's not. From medieval texts to modern fatwas, the same pattern repeats. The law speaks louder than the heart. And when the heart goes silent, faith dies, replaced by legalism. Islamic scholars once again managed to surprise everyone, proving that search for divine law without divine presence of a one personal God leads only to madness. There must be a reason these rulings, these fatwas, these insane debates, they didn't come out of nowhere. They're the logical end of a religion obsessed with control, where morality is secondary to obedience. Think about what it means when the holiest men of civilization spend centuries debating whether a husband may sleep with his dead wife. Think about the authority that controls each move of that society, bound by something otherworldly, and you mean to challenge. Faith and belief shall not come forced upon anyone. Islam, as of itself and its believers, obviously do not condone this, but the structure of the whole religion is to lead everything towards Sharia, and Sharia leads to this.